Hello friends, and praise the Lord. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to learn about how to get rid of issues which have been affecting our lives negatively. And we are going to be learning from the story of Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5 gives us a story of a woman who had an issue of blood. Mark dedicated 10 verses of that chapter to tell us about this woman's 12 years of agony and affliction. So in verse 24 of Mark chapter 5, Mark begins by giving us a scenario, what was happening on ground as at that time, before he brings the woman into the picture. So he talks about Jesus being in the midst of a big crowd, going somewhere where one of the leaders had requested him to go and heal his daughter. And so verse 24 tells us what was on the ground. Jesus is in the midst of hundreds of people. And I would like us to envision it. Imagine, in Africa we have big churches. Some of us go to these big churches. So imagine God is always in the midst of his people, because he promised where 2 or 3 gather in his name, he's there. So I want us to just walk with this story up to the end. And so Mark, was bringing the scenario like you are in this big church, in a big crowd, and there's Jesus, that is the first character, and there are very many people. And then he fades away everybody and puts the limelight to this particular woman. And so he kind of zooms her in and brings her to us. From the whole crowd, he's like, let's focus on this woman. So in that big crowd, there was this woman who had an issue. And the next verse, he first tells us what her problem was and how long she had suffered with that problem. So they had an issue of blood for 12 years. So she had a problem, she had been bleeding for 12 years non-stop. And then after telling us what her problem was and how long it had lasted, the next verse Mark tells us what that cost her, how much that issue and that problem cost the woman. Because he says that he suffered many things and lost a lot of money to physicians, and her problem, instead of getting better, was getting worse. We have not yet left the crowd, we are still in the crowd. So there is Jesus in the crowd, there is so many people in the crowd, and out of those so many people in the crowd, there is this woman who has an issue that has lasted for 12 years, and that issue has cost her so much. And so after bringing her there, and then the next verse, Mark tells us what the woman decided to do. The woman decided to take action. And so the Bible says, so she came from behind and touched the hem of the garment of Jesus. That is Mark still telling us the story. And after telling us what her action was, he explains to us why. Why did she decide to just go and touch this man? Because he says in verse 28 that he thought to herself and said, if only I could touch the hem of his garment. If only I could touch his garment, I will be well. And so he first decided that was what was going on in his heart, and then in her heart, and then she decided to go ahead and do it and touch Jesus' clothes. And when she touched it, the Bible says that immediately the flow stopped and she was well. Her faith was rewarded and she was healed. And then of course the story continues. Jesus asks the famous question, who touched me? And the disciples are like, everybody has been touching you. And then as the conversation is going on, this woman comes trembling and gives her testimony to Jesus. And in a very short time, when she took her faith, a step of faith, everything turned in her favor. First she gets well, and then she gets recognized, and then she even gets an identity that she did not have. She had been called a woman with an issue, and now Jesus adopts her into the family of God and calls her daughter. And then she became and said, daughter, your faith has healed you. And that is how the story goes. So today we are going to look at that woman's story, and we see how can we learn from her and from her experience how to deal with our personal issues. Issues are many in people's lives. When you ask yourself, what are issues? Everybody, each one of us has something that they are dealing with. They have an issue. We have an issue. We have issues. And some of us have been more lucky than the woman, that our issues are not visible. They cannot be touched. People don't know them. For this woman, she was unlucky that she had an issue that was physical, and everyone could see blood following her around, and they could smell the bad stench. And so she was so unlucky. But you and I may have been so lucky that the issues we battle with every day, over this whole season, nobody knows them. And so we are able to just pretend like everything is okay, yet within us we know that there is something that is killing us softly. Those are issues. Issues can be physical. You can have a sickness, then it may not be seen like the way it was for this woman, but it is there, it is killing you from within. Issues can be spiritual. You are battling. Sometimes you find you have these spiritual battles that you have been battling with every single day of your life for some long time. Issues can be emotional. emotional. Some of us are dealing with depression, with mental health, with emotional feelings that we cannot explain to everyone. But when we go to our small rooms, we find ourselves crying and wondering and wishing that things were different. Issues can be financial. You can be so poor that poverty and financial constraints become an issue in your life. Whatever issue it is, we are going to learn, and we need to learn how can we learn from this woman how to get rid of those issues. Because you see, what I've learned and realized with issues, if you don't get rid of them, they get rid of you. If you don't deal with them and get them out of your way, they stand in your way. So those are issues. What is your issue? Ask yourself. If you're in this big church, envision yourself in your church, and God is in the midst of that congregation. You have thousands of people around you, but like Mark did for the woman, the angel or Mark himself brings the limelight to you and zooms you and brings you to the screen and says, Audrey, what is your history? What is your issue? What are you dealing with? And they bring you to the limelight. What is that one thing that could be written about you? For the woman, it was her issue of blood, which had lasted for 12 years. What is your issue? What is it? Think about it. How long has it lasted? Some of our issues, you can't even trace them from how long they've lasted. Maybe you find you've battled with it for as long as you have gained, and you gained understanding. What is your issue? Where did it come from? Mark, in the story of the woman, he never told us where the woman's issue came from. I guess he was very deliberate. He decided not to tell us where the problem of the woman came from. He just told us what the issue was, but he never told us where it came from. He only told us the issue and how it affected the woman. But for you, if you're to think about it, where did it come from? Where did that problem come from? Recently, I had a small accident. I fell down and tilted my leg. And for like 1 week, I couldn't walk because my foot was very swollen. And so I had a physical issue which had come from my fault. And if I was to blame anyone physical, I would blame myself. I was entirely responsible for that physical issue and the physical pain that I was enduring as at that time. And so, because there was no person, there was no one who pushed me, I was alone, and I just missed my step and I fell down. So I had a physical issue that had come from my personal carelessness, if I may say that. Some of us have gone to places and come back with issues. You just go to a shrine, to a witch doctor, to a sorcerer, thinking you are going to get help, and before you realize it, you have spiritual problems happening in your house. You have spiritual dreams, things tormenting you at night, and so you have an issue which you know where it came from. And some issues are brought to us by other people. Someone can actually decide to become the source of your problem. In this issue, in this season, we have had many stories of girls that have been raped, of women that have been domestically violated, of men that have been cheated, and so someone can come and rape you. You're not the one responsible, but yet you're the one who's going to have to deal with the consequences of being raped. Issues come from different places. They can come from within us. So like we learned last time on how to protect our heart. Sometimes when you are a bad gatekeeper of your heart, you can allow issues in. Sometimes we take ourselves to places, we meet wrong companies, they introduce us to bad habits, and before you realize it, the habit that you were introduced to by your friend has become your biggest addiction. But then there are these issues which we cannot trace where they come from. You remember the story where they asked Jesus about this child who was sick, and then said, who sinned? And Christ said, nobody sinned. Nobody sinned. Some things God allows them to show forth his glory. Because when you come to think about Moses, who was responsible for his stammering? He was born like that. Who was responsible for him, not being able to talk? He had an issue, and he was not the one responsible, and no one was responsible for it. But regardless of where these issues come from, the issues that we deal with every day, regardless of where they come from, the fact that they are affecting us means that we need to take the full responsibility of finding a solution to these issues. Because if we do not kill the issues, they are going to end up killing us. If we don't get them out of our way, they will stand in our way of getting to our desired destinations. And so don't even try to blame anyone. Don't even think about that person who hurt you so much. If you have been through physical pain that has been inflicted on you by another person, don't think about them. If someone knocked you down and broke your feet and made you disabled, do not think about the cause of your issue. I want you to focus on the issue itself. Because when you focus on other people, you may just end up playing the blame game of saying this person is responsible for my misery and is instead of reaching out for help, you are blaming people. So forgive them, let them go. No matter how much pain they caused you, let them go. Maybe that is why Mark didn't even tell us who was responsible, but was going to tell us who is going to be responsible for the woman's healing. And so don't think about who caused you that issue that has made you have sleepless nights and has caused you to suffer, especially for those of us who have had issues that have even lasted longer than the 12 years that the woman had to go through with her own issue. Don't think about that. But now just try to analyze it and see, how has it affected you? How has that issue, emotional, spiritual, financial problem affected your life? You need to understand how. For this woman, this issue had turned her into a social outcast. When you remember and you read more about the scenario, the times that she lived in, having an issue of blood meant that she was going to be isolated until it stopped. Because even for a normal menstrual period, you'd be out, you'd be looked at as unclean until that flow stopped. Whatever she touched was rendered unclean. If she rode on a horse, that horse would be unclean. And so she had to be isolated. That issue had caused her to be isolated. That is how it had affected her. The issue had turned her into a social outcast. I would say that. That is how it had affected her. But for you, if you are, because remember, we are resuming ourselves into, we are bringing ourselves into the limelight. We are in this big church. Jesus is in our midst. And then they are bringing our issues on the table. How has your issue affected you? For some of us, our issues have caused us to fear. Especially the issues which people don't know. You are afraid of the day when the demons that have been living and tormenting you from within will come out and everybody will know them. You're like, if my wife knew what I deal with every day, if my husband knew this issue, if my boss knew this issue, they would definitely leave me. So sometimes issues cause us to fear even being, found out that we had the issues, or to even fear how far we are going to endure. Some of these issues are life-threatening, so you feel like, oh my God, how long am I going to live before this particular thing kills me? Issues can affect you in that way and cause you to fear. Issues can cause us to be anxious. Every single moment you are anxious about something because there is an issue that people might not know about, but it is eating you slowly but surely. Some of it causes us to be depressed. You find yourself so depressed. That is how the issue is affecting you. And of course, some people, the issue will turn you into someone else altogether. People will look at you and they cannot understand you. And deep within you'll be like, yeah, you can't understand me because you don't know what I am battling with. Issues affect us in so many ways. I want you to think about it and see how has it affected you. Because when you do not understand that sometimes you react and you behave certain ways because of issues, you will think that that life is normal. For this woman, if she had never lived a normal life before the 12 years of the issue, she would think being isolated is normal. She would think living in huts that nobody comes to is normal. But let me tell you, my friend, that is not a normal way of living. Sleeping when crying is not normal. Feeling depressed is not normal. Being anxious is not normal. It is something that you need to find your way out of because it is being caused by a particular issue that you need to identify and get rid of in your life. The other thing that you could think about when you're bringing yourself to the limelight in this huge church called the world is, what has this issue cost you? How much have you paid for this issue? In the woman's case, in Mark chapter 5, verse 24, the woman lost 12 years. It cost her her time. 12 years of her life were gone. Those are like years that were eaten by locusts. 12 years lost to an issue. How much time have you lost in this issue? For some of us, it's been our lifetime. That is how you have been. Some of us, it's from high school. You got into smoking, you got into drugs, you became a prostitute, you started selling your body for money. How long has it been? Some issues can be very short. Maybe it's been just 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That is how much you have dealt with this issue. How long? It could cost you your time. Issues are very expensive. They can cost you money. For this particular woman, the Bible says that she lost a lot of things. She suffered many things at the hands of physicians. The people of this world do not offer free help. There is nobody. Everyone wants something before they can give you something in return. We have seen it when you fall sick. Sometimes the doctors are genuine. They'll give you a big bill, genuinely, when that is what you're supposed to pay for your sickness. But sometimes physicians will exaggerate. They'll exaggerate your medical bill. Why? Because when you are desperately in need of something, people know you will pay anything to get help. People know that you will go all the way. So when you go to a witch doctor, he will ask you for things. You will cross rivers and valleys to look for something to take to the witch doctor. If you go to a friend, the friend will be like, oh, if you want me to connect you to someone who has a solution, you need to pay me some finder's fee. And you pay commission to this friend. He takes you to a place where you will not be helped. You find you've been looking for a job, and then someone says, oh, you give me money, I will put your application in and put a word for you. You give them money, and nothing comes out, because the Bible says this woman, no matter how far she went to actually get help, she never got help. That was what her problem was. Issues can cost us so much. Issues can cost us money. Issues can cost us relationships. This woman lost her family. She could have lost her husband. I don't know whether she was married. She lost so much. And so think about your issue. What has it cost you? A lot. Some of us, our weaknesses, our issues have cost us our families. Right now, your children don't even know how you look like because you've been a drunkard all your life. You don't come home. You have an addiction of drunkenness. Some of us, our husbands left because of our issues. Our wives left, our children. Our parents don't even want to see us. We are like the social outcasts in the family because we are this girl who the mother, even your mother knows that she may not get anything out of you. Why? Because of the issue. Issues can cost you your business, and you find your business has completely collapsed because of that issue. Issues are expensive. And so having known how the issue has been affecting you, I want you to be genuine and honest with yourself, to think about how this particular issue that nobody knows about or people know about has affected you and how much it has cost you. Because sometimes we let issues last longer because we are not looking at how much we are losing to them. When you realize that, then you will wake up in the 12th year and you say, no, 12 is enough. 12 years is enough. 10 years is enough. 10 years of crying is enough. I need to find help. Because that is the next thing. So now that you know how it has affected you, what are you going to do about it now? And I'm putting the word now because I know you have already done something about it. But what are you going to do about it now? Because even no matter what you did before, the issue still stands. So what are you going to do about it now? You see, the woman, some people think that when someone has a problem, they are not doing anything about it, especially when the problem is not going. But some of us have been doing something about our issues. The only problem is that we have been going to wrong places to find help. Like the case was with this woman. She went to village physicians, she went to witch doctors, she went to friends' houses, trying to find help. So she was already doing something, and nobody could maybe believe that she's doing something to get better. Because when you see someone not getting better, sometimes you think they are not doing anything to get themselves out of their current situation. But we are trying. Think about it. That person that you've been looking at who has been caught up in addictions, just as God that he has ever stood up one time and decided that he's going to find help. And maybe he abstained from it for like 5.5 hours, and he just couldn't get out of it, and he fell back into the same ditch. And so the woman had already done something, and the issue was still remaining. And the question is, are you going to just give up and say, oh no, I think this is my destination? No. You still need to look for a solution now. Don't give up on yourself. No matter how much you've lost trying to find a solution to your problem, the fact that the problem still stands, the fact that you still have that issue, that flow of blood, I think you need to do something about it even now. You need to go all the way to find help. This woman knew that she needed help. She already knew that the kind of help she needed was not any kind that she had found for now, but she knew she needed help. And she also understood that the kind of help she needed was not going to come from her village. She had already tried her village. And the village, in this case, I want you to just imagine your friends, your connection, who knows who you know, something like that. She had already gone through all the other options of her circles, and they were not working. So she knew she needed something bigger than her peers, bigger than her village, bigger than herself. And that was, she needed a miracle. Let me tell you, friends, there are some kind of problems and issues that will not be solved by anything that you know right now. They're not going to be solved by your friends. Think about the last time you went to your friend's house. Did he help you with your issue, or he only made it worse? Think about when you talk to your physician about a problem. Did he help you with this, or did it make it worse? Think about about the time when you actually were trying to find a solution to your money problem, and you talked to one of your friends about it. What did they do about it? Some of these friends, instead of actually coming out to help us, they were the ones who were talking about the people, us in the village. I imagine this woman had some friends, and she told them about her problem, and then this particular friend will go and say, oh, her blood is no longer red, it is now purple, and she becomes the source of your gossip. Think about what you have done and how far it has gone in not working, and then know that you actually need help. You need help. It is obvious that you need help, and the help you need cannot come from your village. It is going to come from some place, from some other place altogether, and that help is called a miracle. And so this woman woke up. I envision her waking up and putting on her clothes, because she was a woman. For us women, we know how to make up ourselves. Even if you have the worst dress, you will wash it and iron it so that you can look good and look presentable. And so this woman wakes up, puts on her best clothes, puts on her makeup, combs her hair. But the problem with the issue is that no matter how much of the makeup you do, the issue will still find its way out. It still will come out. If you sit on a table or on a chair like the one seated right now with your issue of blood, give yourself 5 minutes and it's going to bring a red patch on your back, on your buttocks, and then you stand up and like, oh, there's already a red mark. But she didn't care about that. She stood up. She braced her pain. She braced her misery. She braced her fears. She swam through all the rejection, all the self-judgment, and everything that she was battling with, and she came out to find help. My friend, you also need to do that. You need to swim through your pain. You need to swim through the whole thing of what they have painted you to be, and you go out to find help. The good thing with our time is that Jesus is no longer limited physically. We are in the dispensation of the Holy Spirit. The Lord is still able to help us. Now, you don't need to move through the people who are taller or shorter than you to find help. You just need to get on your knees, because Christ is there with you, and you speak to him and you find help. Like I said, find help from this issue before it actually kills you. Find help from this issue before it actually disturbs and destroys your life. Find help from this particular issue. And then the other thing that I would love you to see and to know is that do not let the crowd disorganize you. Don't let the crowd discourage you. Why do I say this? When you look at the people that were in the crowd, each one of them had an issue. It is just that because the woman's issue was physical, she looked like the only person with a problem. But even in that particular place where Jesus met her, he was on the way to help a girl who was about to die. When you're in the midst of a crowd, you do not know that everyone that is around you has a problem. We sit in church and you think you're the only one with a problem. But let me tell you, if they were to zoom your neighbor and bring him to the limelight, he may even have worse issues than you. But the people who are lucky enough to hide their issues will always judge those whose issues are physical. But the thing is, in that crowd, people have problems, so that crowd should not intimidate you. No crowd on earth should intimidate you, dear woman. Why? Because they themselves have problems. Or if they don't have them, if they were in your shoes, they would take 2 steps to go and find help. And that same crowd is the crowd that had rejected you. It is the crowd that had put you down. It is the crowd that had discouraged you. It is the crowd that is shunning you. So you should not even listen to them. Why? For 12 years, none of them has been able to help you. And this one day, when you need to break the rules, because it was illegal for the woman to go in public with the issue of blood, but when you need to break the rules to find help, don't allow anybody who is not capable of helping you to discourage you from breaking those rules. Why? Because they cannot help you, and you need to go and find help. So that crowd should not start screaming, because I know when the woman was coming out of the house, people must have seen her. Some of the people who knew her could have recognized her, but don't listen to them. Move forward and try to find help, because that is the thing that you need. Do not let issues put you down. Why? Because they don't know how much you have lost to this issue. They don't know how many years you have cried. They don't know how much sleepless nights you have had. So don't let them intimidate you. Issues are not good. We need to get rid of them. Issues isolate us. Issues they are unbearable to us. We cannot stand them, but they are intolerable to the people around us. People cannot tolerate them at all. Why? Because issues make us stink. For the woman, the issue would make her smell so badly, and nobody wanted to be around her. Issues make people think there is something wrong with us, and because of their bad stage, nobody can stand your attitude. Nobody can stand your sickness. Nobody can stand your brokenness. The fact that you're always broke all the time. Nobody can can stand that, and so you end up being isolated. That is why you should find help for your issue. Issues make us not go to certain places. When you have a problem, there are certain places you cannot go to. Why? Because you have an issue. There are certain people you cannot meet. Why? Because you have an issue. Some people will tell you, if you want to do business, don't do it with this and this person. Why? Because he has an issue. If you want to stand in church, don't go with this and this person. If you want preachers, don't invite this and this pastor. Issues can make you miss opportunities. That is why you should get a solution before the issues put you down and completely destroy your destiny. So what am I trying to say? You be like this woman. Dress yourself up. People may not even believe that there is still hope for you. But with God, there is always hope. If he could help Lazarus come out of the grave, then how about you who is still above the ground? Jesus can help you get rid of this issue. And God, unlike people, does not shun people. He will not say, you're smelling so badly, don't touch me. No, he will help you. God will give you a solution to your issue, regardless of its magnitude and its history. Regardless of how long this issue had lasted, Christ will give you a solution to it. He is going to heal you. And so reach out and touch him and help and get help, because you need that help. You need that help. Christ is going to give you the help. You need to believe in him. You need to bring your issue at his feet. You need to lay it down at his feet. You need to get down on your knees and you surrender. Come out of yourself and go look for your help. Go look for help from a greater source. Come out of your fears. Come out of your, all the coverings. Because this woman came out of her tent that day, went and looked for help. You also need to come out of yourself today. Go and look for help. Why? Because Jesus said, see, when you seek me, God says, when you seek me with all your heart, you will find me. When you seek for help with all your heart, my friend, you will find it. You will find a breakthrough. This woman went not looking for recognition. She was not looking for recognition. She was looking for a breakthrough. She ended up finding both. And so when you come out of yourself and you go to look for help, you may find much more than you even were looking for. When you come to God in search for help for your problem, you will find much more than what you're looking for. So my friends, I pray for you that whatever it is that